Well, let's move on to the story. Still staying with matters of crime, because prisoners' rights group SAPOHR is calling for an urgent judicial inquiry into the Thabo Bester saga. It maintains his escape was an inside job. Shocking revelations are coming to light as those arrested begin to appear in court. The jailbreak is also raising questions around privately run prisons. Let's get more now from SAPOHR's Golden Miles Bhudu joining us in the studio this morning. Thank you so much, as always, Golden, for your time, and a very good morning to you. Let's talk a little bit about this, because I think we've been hearing from different, either from the portfolio committee, where, of course, they were questioning with G4S and regarding exactly how this matter actually unfolded. You're saying that there's more to the story than meets the eye. How much more that meets the eye?
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for your views and giving me this opportunity. Look, we have decided that we have to approach the president, to be quite frank with you, in terms of proclamation number 135/2001, when the proclamation set out the regulations governing the commission, as well the commission's terms of reference. Because we believe that there isn't, at this current moment, any institution that would get to the bottom of this matter. Not the police, not the walks, not even the intelligence. We have pleaded with the president to say to him, look, set up this commission of inquiry, and it must have deadlines. Minimum 6 months, maximum 18 months. It must be a commission that will do the hit and running, because you see, the police won't be able to do this because they are implicated, complicated, and complacent. The walks won't do that, because we heard the other day that you have a senior officer of the walks that is supposed to be a seasoned, ordained and blessed investigator that cannot, in fact, differentiate between having sinus and cyanide poisoning. So there is much lot that the eye is currently seeing.
Yeah. You've spent time in correctional services facilities, so you understand how it works. And I want to take it from the perspective of experience. Would a person escape, like Thabo Bester, would a person like Thabo Bester escape, especially within this privately owned facilities, would he able to escape without having the wardens help, the security officials help, all the way to the top? I mean, to conduct an operation of this magnitude, what would he need, given your experience?
Well, you need to have deep pockets. You need to be well connected. You need to have people outside that take instructions from inside. I mean, this is not the first escape at that particular institution. We've heard the other day there was an escape at Baragwana Hospital, where a Zimbabwean escaped and paid almost 100,000 rands bribe. So for as long as the Department of Correctional Services operates as a personal fiefdom and do not allow people like us, organizations and many other organizations that want to play a watchdog role, not a oversight role, these incidents will keep on happening, because the Department of Correctional Services officers are all by themselves. They report to themselves, they investigate it themselves.
Do you think that they compromised the Department of Correctional Services, that they themselves are part and parcel of the problem, and that they're also susceptible, I'm not saying they are, but they're susceptible to receiving bribes, so that indeed you can have inmates escape?
Of course, yes, because they're all there by themselves, and the community really don't have an interest what happened behind these high walls. It's only then when the SHIT has hit the fan and all of a sudden everybody runs around. Civil society, intellectuals, academics, the media, everybody. But I can assure you, if we do not keep our knee on the neck of this particular matter, in a few weeks' time it will be old news. Everybody would have forgotten about it until such time something like this happened. Now, as an organization, for the past 34 years after my imprisonment, we have pleaded with the department, we have submitted documents to be part of the system, not to be compromised, but to be part of the system, to play a watchdog role. And I can assure you, if they've given us that recognition and procedural agreement, what we have been asking for 34 years, this was not going to happen.
Why do you think they have not given you that go-ahead?
Because they have decided all by themselves. Almost 30 years in a democracy to turn this institution in what one could call a glorified Bantustan. Previously, during the heydays of apartheid, it was run along the lines of a glorified Afrikaner Bonner Boere state, where the correctional officers members own the prison, own the prisoners. Everything that moves belongs to them, and nobody will come and tell them what to do. And it is very convenient for them because nobody outside is interested to know what is happening until you end up there yourself.
So, and again, it's putting us into confidence, right? So you've been in the system. You understand what it's like to live as somebody who's been convicted and living within a correctional services facility. So you know how these things actually run and work. So let's start from the point of privilege, right? There have been conversations about how Thabo Bester was allowed certain privileges, laptops, phones, you name it. Are these privileges common within correctional services facilities in South Africa? Because there's things that we are told as the public that they are not allowed to have in prison. And I think there's a completely different community and reality that we are not privy to. What happens on the inside?
Well, there are two differences between a privilege and a right. Now, the right of sentenced and unsentenced prisoners is emboldened in Chapter 2 of the Bill of Rights, Section 35, subsection 2, paragraph E. It is non-negotiable. Then you have privileges. And currently, you know, it all depends how deep your pockets are. I mean, Thabo Bester was running, in fact, that prison. He was walking and going to all other sections which other sentenced prisoners were not allowed. And we were receiving messages, WhatsApp texts, and prisoners were complaining.
Let me understand this, Golden. You've received messages from other inmates within the same correctional services facility as Thabo Bester at the time, Mangaung.
Yes.
That Thabo Bester was practically running their prison and going from cell to cell?
Section to section.
Section to section as well.
Yes. And we have received this having been involved in a fearless campaign to get cell phones legitimized and legalized in the Department of Correctional Services. Now, if the cell phones were legalized, he was not going to go that far to run a business within the Department of Correctional Services, and people who are at that institution purport not to know what was happening.
What business was he running?
He was running a show business. He was running festivals. He was selling estate. He was in property and so on. And this is the information that would be sorted out, and we would get to the bottom of this information if there is a commission of inquiry that would dig deeper than what the human eye can see.
If there had to be a commission of inquiry, because I mean, we'd have to talk about cost implications, and also what would it mean subsequent to a commission of inquiry, because unfortunately commissions of inquiry in this country are non-binding. They provide recommendations, but they don't necessarily, and then they hand over obviously the recommendations to the likes of the NPA, and of course they then would have to prosecute to the likes of the Hawks. If it had to get to that point, would you be willing to come onto the platform and testify and say, actually, I've got it under good record from people that were sharing cells with Thabo Bester, that this individual was practically running the correctional services facilities in Mangaung?
In fact, that's part of our terms of reference as an organization, as we wrote to the president via his spokesperson, Vincent. We, in fact, said to him, look, let's also get some of the sentenced prisoners who has witnessed personally what was happening in that prison to be witnesses. And if they do that, and it is confirmed that they be compensated according to the Correctional Services Act 111 of 1998, Section 80, where you are in fact going to be rewarded for highly meritorious services, where you have given evidence, and the evidence has been tested, and evidence has shown that it is not fake news, that some of these prisoners must come on board and assist all of us.
And will these inmates come on board and state on record, right? The ones that have been in contact with you, will they state on record how Thabo Bester was conducting his business and how he was moving from section to section within these correctional services facilities without anybody kind of, you know, putting a lid on it, without anybody minding, so as it were?
I mean, we received this kind of information even up to today through WhatsApp texts and voice notes, that some of them, when they started to ask a lot of questions, they were harassed, victimized, and forcefully removed, taken to very far prisons.
Harassed by who?
By the correctional officers at the particular prison.
Do they have names?
Well, we've got their names, we know where they are, we even got their prison numbers. They are prepared to sing like canaries on one condition, that they will be taken into cognizance according to Act 80 of the Correctional Services. When you give evidence and the evidence is tested, you must be rewarded anything between 18 to 24 months under what is called highly meritorious services.
What has been the response so far from I mean, you sent it to Vincent, so what has been the response so far from Vincent, who's a spokesperson, of course, for the presidency?
Well, it's only a week now that we have sent the information and the letter, and we should have by now at least received acknowledgement, receipt, and we have not yet received an acknowledgement. Then after the acknowledgement, then the Office of the President could indicate whether they would be interested to establish an independent judicial commission of inquiry. And we have laid out everything what we think needs to be done to get to the bottom of this matter. So we are waiting.
Well, we do hope that the President also watches ENCA, so he's able to respond quite speedily to your request. I mean, as you're saying, if there are inmates that are willing to go on record and to testify how Thabo Bester was conducting his business, as well as who of these wardens who were shifting these prisoners or inmates because of them actually sounding the alarm on Thabo Bester, then that information needs to come to the light.
Yes, we have gone now on a campaign to try and get business people on board to try and assist us as an organization to not wait until this thing hits the fan before everybody starts to speak. There are jailbreak foundation in Duduza, Nigel, that is prepared to come on board. There are a Mufokeng Family Trust Fund in the Northwest that is going to build hospitals that are prepared, that everybody comes on board, so that we don't wait until it is too late before we start talking about what we called a saga.
Golden, we'll leave it there for now, but much appreciated for your time as always. Until, of course, we talk again, I'm sure this is going to be a developing story.
Thank you very much.
As you heard, Golden Bhudu, their spokesperson for the SA Prisoners' Rights Organization for Human Rights.